Hello, Hey Boomer listeners. My name is Wendy Green. I am your host for Hey Boomer. And wherever you are listening from, welcome to the Hey Boomer Show. You know, it's funny with Hey Boomer, it's always a little bit of a pressure and excitement. Like, is it going to work? Is the technology going to work? And, you saw last week we had a little bit of glitch, but we are here and ready for a great show this week. And I wanted to just give you a brief intro to Hans Peterson, who says, I paint what brings me joy. And this became even more important to him during the pandemic when he was mostly isolated. The galleries that they would normally go to and show at, the designers that they would normally work with, everybody was pretty much shut down. So Hans just had free reign to create what brought him joy. And during that time, his creativity really flourished. And he found himself yearning for the fun and the boldness and the vitality of the 60s graphic design and art movement. Y'all remember the 60s, right? Maybe. With a history in graphic design, Hans began to incorporate these elements into his work, and he created several collections, a couple of which we're going to explore today. And he remembers telling his wife during the isolation of the pandemic, "We only have the fun we make ourselves." Think about that. We only have the fun we make ourselves. That's a pretty profound statement. My mother, who I speak to every day, ends our phone calls most of the time by saying, "Make it a good day." You know how most of us say, "Hope you have a good day, whatever." My mother says, "Make it a good day." She puts that responsibility square on me. Sometimes I'm able to do that. Sometimes my thoughts get in the way, and I'm not always able to make it as good a day as I would like. But as Hans said, we make our own joy, we make our own fun. And I think as we examine our thoughts and we examine our interpretations of what's happening, we can start to see how we might get in our own way of creating that good day. So now I'm passing it on to you. Make today a good day. Before I bring Hans on, let me share a couple of the never too old stories with you. While Bob Dylan, the Velvet Underground, and the Rolling Stones challenged popular music in terms of arrangements and instrumentation, the late 60s ushered in a new golden age of design as artists produced psychedelic posters, murals, and editorial graphics for the alternative press, clubs, and events. One of the artists from the 60s whose work became synonymous with op art is Brittany Riley. Brittany was born in 1931, and she began developing her work in the 50s and had her first exhibits in the 60s. She continues to produce art today at the age of 91. She works from several studios, including in her home in South Kensington, where 4 out of the 5 floors of her home are dedicated to artistic production. I don't know if she does everything on all those 4 floors, but they are still producing art for Brittany Riley. My second story is about Sam Gilliam. Sam was born in Mississippi in 1933, and he is a color field painter and lyrical abstractionist artist. Gilliam, an African-American, is associated with the Washington Color School, a group of Washington, D.C. artists that developed a form of abstract art from color field painting in the 50s and 60s. He is best known for his works on stretched, draped, and wrapped canvas. In his more recent work, Gilliam has worked with polypropylene, computer-generated imaging, metallic and iridescent acrylics, handmade paper, aluminum, steel, plywood, and plastic. As these artists continue their creative pursuits, our guest today, Hans Peterson, is also exploring and continuing creative pursuits. And as you know, today is about creativity and finding inspiration and creative outlets. So if you know anybody that is in that stage of life where they are looking for more creativity, where they want to explore that as a possible next act, invite them to join. Go ahead and send them a quick note. Say, come on, listen to Hey Boomer, or send them a note and let them know that the recording will be available after the show and that the podcast is always available for them to listen to later. So with that, I'm going to bring Hans on and do a quick introduction. Hello, Hans.
Hey, Wendy. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Well, I know you don't typically do interviews, so I'm really honored that you have agreed to be a guest on Hey Boomer today.
I'm
Thank
honored
you for
to
that.
be, I guess.
Thank you. Let me give them a brief background on you, and then we'll get started. So Hans Peterson is an international artist, Danish-born. He was educated at the Royal Danish Academy of Art in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. Yeah.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Though Hans' initial studies were in architecture, his love of abstract expressionism intensified with inspiration from the Cobra movement, especially artist Asger Jorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
To this day, his work draws on this movement's basic principles of complete freedom of color and form that inject energy and excitement into his work. And he definitely uses a lot of color and form. It's very exciting. Hans began his professional life as a graphic designer, moving to New York City in 1976 to become a principal and creative director for a successful design firm. He relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina in 1991, where his innovative graphic design style distinguished the world-renowned International Furnishing Center's promotional material for over 15 years. And then in 2005, Hans decided to pursue life as a full-time painter. He resides with his wife, Barbara, in Lake Wylie, South Carolina, where they work together on the business. A nice partnership. So Hans, when did you first become interested in art, or did you always know that art was a passion for you?
No, not really. It started very early when I made a coloring thing for the newspaper and won a box of crayons.
Oh yeah.
I'm 8 years old, and I was so excited that I won. and then in grade school, I always participated in painting, big wall painting on butcher paper with poster paint that was dripping, and my dad kind of encouraged me and framed all of them, so we had them hanging in our apartment in Copenhagen.
Wow, is that nice? Yeah, and so you studied architecture. And then you moved to New York to work in graphic design. What motivated that move for you?
Well, I had worked in a graphic design studio in Copenhagen, one of the best division of the Italian company Unimark, and I worked there for, I think, 3 years. So I had a good background in graphic design. So I moved to New York, and in the beginning, it was tough for me to get into an advertising agency or a good design studio. So I got an opportunity to work for a pre-press company on the Lower East Side that did proofs for advertisements for advertising agencies. So I learned all about color separations for letterpress, offset, and gravure. How to dot edge. Of course, today nobody knows what a dot edging is. It's all Facebook. What do you call it? Whatever.
Computer-aided design now. Yeah.
So anyway, I learned everything about color there, and I was teaching at night. I was teaching schools of visual arts students about color and color separation. So that's how I got my understanding of color.
Okay, so you didn't have a job when you first moved to New York?
No.
Wow, that was bold. I mean, how did you find the courage to just get up and go?
I was in love with a woman, and so
it's always a woman's fault.
How I got there, yeah, that's how I got there. and after that, we started the design studio with a partner, and we stayed together for 10 years on Broadway and 28th Street, and I did a lot of corporate work, a lot of work for Philip Morris and UNICEF and other companies, and
so that's pretty cool, Hans.
I was a creative director, and at one point I was, as a matter of fact, thinking about it, I was over to be the director of publications for UNICEF.
Huh.
But I turned it down because I always wanted to work for myself. I knew that, and I didn't want to work for a big, even though UNICEF is a wonderful place to work.
Yeah. So you moved to New York without a job. You found work at a press company, and then you founded your own company, and were very successful with that.
Yeah. Well, I survived. I lived in Manhattan and had a nice apartment.
And it was in New York where you met Barbara, your wife?
Yes, we met on a trip to Jamaica, and fell in love. I fell in love, and when we came back, I did pursue her.
She wasn't sure at first?
I'm sorry?
She wasn't sure at first?
I don't know. She said she had a boyfriend, and she said, "Okay, after you see the boyfriend, why don't you come and see me?" And that was the start, and that's 34 years ago.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
And we're still together, so.
Well, you're a partnership now. So you had your business in New York. Barbara was also working in New York, and then she got an opportunity in North Carolina.
Right. She got an opportunity to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I have been sweating it out on the Lexington Avenue subway for 12 years with no air conditioning and anxiety attacks because you couldn't move, and the train stopped before Grand Central Station for half an hour with nobody telling you what was going to happen. So when I came to Charlotte and saw all the trees, and I said, wow, this is great. We had a son also. He was 1 year old. We said it's probably a great idea to move. So we moved to Charlotte.
But you had your own business. Did you just move your business down to Charlotte, or what did you do?
No, you start from scratch.
You started from scratch.
And I rented an office and start sending out letters, 200 letters probably, cold letters. As you know, you can say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Not exactly true, but eventually this letter landed on the desk of a person at the International Home Furnishing Center in High Point, and she showed it to the person in charge. And they had an advertising agency that they were not pleased with anymore. So I said, let's see his work, let's give him a chance. And in the beginning, I designed something for them, and they eventually liked it. And so I kept working for them for 15 years, doing all their booklets and promotion. It's the biggest furniture show in the world, if people are not familiar with High Point. They come from all over the world and have buildings there.
Oh, so you did all of their graphic design and advertising for them?
Yeah.
Wow. And then 15 years go by, probably more quickly than you imagined it would.
I know. We were living in Atlanta at that time, and every time they said, "Oh, we would like to have a meeting," I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I drove from Atlanta to High Point and back again the same day.
Ah,
I had an old Mercedes diesel that made it back and forth so many times, because if you're going to be professional, you got to be, if they want to talk to you, you're going to be there.
yeah. And that was before Zoom, when we could just do these.
Yeah, it was way before.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when did you actually move up to Charlotte, the Lake Wylie area?
Well, we lived in Charlotte, and then my wife got a job with Home Depot in Atlanta.
Oh,
And so we moved there. That's why I commuted back and forth from Atlanta for the
okay.
Home Furnishing Center. And then we moved back to Charlotte. And our son went to Charlotte Latin School. And so we lived in Charlotte. And then I bought this house on Lake Wylie. And we moved to Lake Wylie, where I have my studio now.
Yeah, I can see the artwork behind you. I love it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about that. So 2005 comes along, and the International Furnishing Place says, well, we're ready to try somebody new. Is that right?
I'm sorry, they're ready to?
Try somebody new.
No, they were not ready. The IHFC, the big building that had all the biggest showrooms, they were in charge of all the publications. But it changed. So all the other buildings in High Point, which are like 20 other buildings, they all pulled together to make a market organization.
Ah.
And that market organization was going to produce the books.
Oh.
And it was all digital. And I had worked with a agency that put my layouts onto the digital medium. But they wanted something that would do it totally digital. So I was out.
And you were still doing your, yeah, you were still doing your graphic design by hand.
I was still doing the old-fashioned layouts. And so that was the end of that era.
And so it wasn't when you planned it to be over. So then what?
Well, then my wife said, "Why don't you paint?" I said, "Okay."
You said, okay, just like that?
Yeah. I said, "Okay." So I went to the art store and I bought some canvas and an easel and some paint. And I started painting paintings. And some of them were good. Some of them were not so good. And I showed them to a gallery and they said, "Oh no, we can't use you because you're all over the place. You paint this painting, you paint that painting. That's not good." So I kept on painting. And then we moved, and then eventually we started, when I had enough paintings, we started going on tent shows. We bought a used tent. And we tried to get into all the shows on the East Coast, Miami and Westport. And sometimes I won best of show. And the next year I wouldn't get in. That's the art business.
So was Barbara not working anymore? She was able to come with you?
It was on weekends.
Just on weekends. So she was still working. You were painting.
She was still working, and we did this on weekends. It was tough.
Yeah.
And the tents were.
And Hans, did you have any training in painting, or is this just self-taught?
I'm basically self-taught.
Huh. Okay, so the gallery said, Hans, you're all over the place. The tent
Right.
shows said you're great, and then we don't want you. How did you come about finally becoming well known and turning this into a business?
Well, when we stepped it up from the tent shows, we started doing indoor shows at Art Expo New York and Art Basel Spectrum, and these spaces were expensive. But when you went to these shows, these spaces could be like $8,000.
Oh, wow.
Small space. And then the travel and the hotel rooms or whatever. So it's expensive. But when you go to these shows, you meet gallery people. You meet people that are interested in your art. So that's why we did it. And the question was, I'm sorry.
How did you turn this into a business? So, yeah, you started. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when we met people and got into galleries, maybe one or two in the beginning, began to realize maybe there was some future in this. And I started painting series of paintings, not just one painting, and I showed series of paintings. And I met with some very professional people at these shows, and they said, if you're going to be a professional artist, you're going to paint at least 50 paintings a year. And that time I was like, 50, that sounds like a lot. Now I realize how true that statement was. Now for the last 5 years, I paint at least 40 to 50 paintings a year. That's what you have to do. If you're a professional artist, you have to paint every day. But there's more going into being a professional artist. You're gonna research galleries, and you're gonna showcase your art. You're gonna have it professionally photographed. You take it to a professional photographer. Then you take it to. I designed my booklets with the paintings, but then you take it to a graphic designer that can put it on. That can make the book work on a TIFF file or whatever it's called. Then you send it to a printer, and we print 150 of each brochures. Each brochure we make, and then you're going to realize that you have other expenses like storage, shipping, insurance. And when people, this is interesting. When people walk into a gallery and they see like a painting hanging behind me, let's just say it's $6,000. They say, "Oh my God, he slapped paintings on this thing and he won $6,000."
Right.
This is what you have to realize. Let's say it's 6,000. It's probably a little bit more, but the gallery takes 50%, which is totally legit because they do a lot of work. They have a lot of overhead. People say, "Oh, that's a lot of money." No, it's not. They richly deserve the 50% they get. And then the other 50, as I said, well, you have to do photography, print booklets, insurance, storage, traveling, shipping, sending out brochures to, when you're professional, you send out brochures to collectors, to galleries, trying to get new galleries. It's a lot of promotion going on, and they cost a lot of money. So out of the 3,000 that you have, you spend a good deal on that on what I just mentioned. So it's really,
I guess you do. I never thought of it like that.
It's really not. It's not like Okay, he painted that painting and he won $6,000 for that crap. He must be crazy. No, he's not. I might be crazy, but I'm not.
Yeah, but not for that.
But not for that. For that, because there's a lot involved in being a professional artist. You can paint for fun and have a good time, but if you're going to be professional, you're going to put a lot of work in, and that's what Barbara is doing now. She's almost full time promoting my business, sending out brochures to collectors, doing emails, doing everything to promote everything. Even this show, she's promoted a
So
lot.
that's great to have that kind of help. So,
You
but
need that.
but so you made the comment, you can paint for fun, or you can or be a professional. As a professional artist, how do you find the fun in it?
As a professional artist, you basically have to paint every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not here there. Well, how do you get the inspiration? There's no inspiration. It's work.
Mm-hmm.
It's going down to the painting every day and paint it. But I'm lucky because I was a graphic designer, so it's kind of a continuation of composition and colors and whatever. So I have some strong background in the graphic design business when I do my paintings.
And I'm
But
sure
some days you're not in the mood for painting, but you paint, and some days you are more in the mood. But
yeah,
you got to paint. If you got to paint 50 paintings a year,
that's one a week.
You can't just wait for inspiration, and that's
But
one.
I would imagine it's like when I write a blog, Hans, I may
Yeah.
not always know what I'm going to say, and I get started and I stop and I get started and I stop.
Right.
But eventually the inspiration comes. Do you
Right.
find that happens with your work as well?
It does. Some paintings go absolutely nowhere, and suddenly you realize this is what I have to do. It is. I think in the last 15 years, I have thrown 3 paintings away in the dumpster.
Just
In South
3.
Carolina. 3 paintings that I absolutely could do nothing with, and they went straight in the dumpster.
But most everything.
I can save any painting.
That's fabulous.
Maybe, yeah. They might not be. They are great paintings. They are good paintings, and they are good paintings.
Yeah.
And
So I want to talk about a couple of the collections that you did during the pandemic.
Okay.
And these are collections that, as you explained to me, they brought you joy.
Right.
So let's see. I wanted to be able to talk about the Danish Party collection. Can you tell me more about that?
I can. Growing up, not growing up, graduating from college at 67 in Copenhagen was a premier time for the flower power movement and the excitement of color, that is color, purple, orange, that Copenhagen and London were doing, and the graphics, the typefaces, just was the most exciting time you could grow up as a graphic designer and painter. And it was, I do that a lot, and I still use these paintings. Some of these paintings behind me, you can still see as the 60s color vibe.
Yeah.
So
which is part of what
But this series of paintings were more the party things, how Danish people party, unlike any other people. Maybe somebody in South, I don't know, party.
how do
They,
Danish people
they
party?
party till they go down. And sometimes they take a bath or a shower and they come back and party and they get sick and they party again. They end in the morning. Nobody drives home. They all leave their car and come back the next day, and then they start partying again.
Oh, goodness.
And this is what I try to depict in these paintings.
So the sense of continuity from continuing on from daylight to daylight.
Daylight. A couple of passed out women. That painting sold with the Danish flag, and the woman passed out under the Danish flag. That's sold in my gallery up in Milwaukee. So
that was kind of a.
They're very graphic. They're very graphic, and I like some of them. It was so much fun to paint this during the pandemic. My thoughts went back to the 60s in Copenhagen, and I started thinking about that and painting what I remembered from the partying days. Not so much my studying days, but
the partying days. And so then you have another collection that I really liked called Pure Joy.
Right.
And let me get that one. Oh, careful. Let me get that one up. And let's talk about Pure Joy, because this one I really liked because it not just the colors, but it also combined more of your graphic background, I think. Do you think?
You're right. It was more my graphic backgrounds and it's more a colorist approach and colorist and graphic approach. And I came up, excuse me, I came up with this shape of a head, and I don't know where it came from. And I started painting around that, and then the big mouth, and no eyes and no nose or whatever. And this series has been, I only painted 6 paintings, but they became very popular. 3 of them are in a gallery, my new gallery in Atlanta, and 2 of them are sold. And it was very tedious. It really challenged me to work freehand on some of these lines.
Oh, so
which was, there's no tape involved in these paintings. You don't tape up, or wow. Sometimes people photograph paintings onto a canvas and they paint according to the photograph. These are totally freehand.
Wow, because the lines look perfectly even and perfectly spaced, and
you have to be. You can't make many mistakes there.
It's quite a challenge.
But it was fun, and I do believe that the reaction to this series has been so great that I had to readdress it and come back and paint more, because it did bring me a lot of joy.
I was going to ask you about that. You said you did 6. I was going to ask you if you ever go back and add to collections that you've already started.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. I am testing collections. I'm testing out. I'm painting like 16 or 12 paintings in each series. I have a new series coming out, and it's called The 4 Seasons. It's a very, I can't say much about it, but it's coming out, and if people like it, and if it gets a good response from the galleries, I will definitely go back and paint them.
So Hans, I mean, obviously you sell the originals in the galleries. Do you ever make prints of your work that people can buy?
No, I don't.
No, it's the original Hans Peterson.
It's all original. The moment I don't know, we think the moment you make prints, you devaluate your originals.
Mm.
And the galleries are not excited about that. So,
Ah.
but what we do is we have made some bags, what do they call it? Bags with a strap on? I can't remember.
Like tote bag, a backpack?
Tote bags. We have made tote bags. In the last month, we have made tote bags of some of the paintings, and they will be on my website.
Oh, good idea.
For sale. So that's different than making prints.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, the tote bags they're very cool. Very cool. They have pockets inside. They are really people should definitely gravitate toward those.
Yeah. And the website is
Give the artist some money. This is the tube of acrylic paint. 5-ounce tube of acrylic paint. Look at these paintings. You know how much this is? This tube of acrylic paint. We're not talking oil. This is $30.
One tube.
$30.
Wow.
This tube. It's not that big. See, that's how big it is.
It's not very big. Yeah, you need a lot of it for that painting behind you.
$30.
So people can see,
it's expensive.
So people can see your collections and those tote bags at your website, Hans Peterson.
Yeah.
So please be sure that you spell Peterson, Petersen, PetersonArt.com. I misspelled it in the beginning, and Peterson En is Danish. Peterson On is Swedish.
And we do not want to talk about the Swedish.
Okay.
We do not like the Swedes.
Be nice. Okay. So do you ever do custom work? Like if a designer comes to you and says, I'm doing this great house and I need certain paintings, do you ever do custom work?
Very rarely. Very rarely. I've done it a couple of times when the painting was easy to duplicate. And then still they said, oh, there's a little too much blue in it. So, no, I don't. I sold a painting in Charlotte that the designer designed the whole dining room around the painting with the colors I had in my painting. And they said, so people said, we want another painting like that. And I said, I don't do custom work. It's
too difficult to find.
I don't want to duplicate my own work.
Yeah, and you want to do your own work.
I want to do my own work.
Yeah.
Every painting I paint is an original. And I paint series, and I change series every 3 months or whatever.
Oh, wow.
Because like Picasso and all the other guys, they changed it every 10 years. But I'm getting so old, I have to change it every 3 months. Or maybe next year I have to change it every month.
Oh, stop. So when I asked you about having fun, how do you make your own fun? And Barbara was on too. She goes, see, he has such a great sense of humor. You make your own fun. You make yourself laugh, don't you?
Well, we try.
Do you ever?
Excuse me. We still don't go out to restaurants. We still don't with the pandemic. We still don't do that. There are two reasons for that. We don't want to be exposed, and we can't afford it.
Oh, right. I know, because the gallery takes half of your earnings.
Oh, we are partying. We are doing this restaurant and this restaurant. Barbara is an outstanding cook, so.
Oh, there you go. You don't have to go out.
The life at home is good.
Yeah. So when are you inviting me for dinner?
We were. We go to Greenville. See, this is another thing. When we met you in Greenville last time, about being a professional artist, we were on our way to Atlanta to spot galleries that we had researched. And we found one gallery we really liked, and they were in the price range. And we sent them a packet of 7 of my brochures and letters or whatever, and she wrote back, "This is what we've been looking for." Hans is one of our artists now. Is getting a solo show in October. So it takes a lot of footwork. It takes a lot of to be a professional artist. You have to do a lot of work.
So you reinvented yourself from a graphic designer to a professional artist. How long do you think you're going to continue to work as a professional artist?
Well, Matisse, they put a stick on his hand and he was painting on the wall, right? I can't remember what I wrote down, but I have to. I wrote something down. Damn. Oh, I can't remember what I said.
So as Hans is looking, it's because I send questions ahead of time for my guests to kind of prep a little bit so they're not surprised at what I ask.
Oh, this is what I want to say. This is my point.
Okay.
Of this Hey Boomer is that when I didn't work for the Home Furnishing Center, I didn't want to do computer art. Then I didn't think about what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you have to go back to your childhood to find out what was really your interest. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't remember. And sometimes I didn't remember painting. Okay. So maybe that's a message for boomers.
I love that you said that because, I do a what's next group coaching thing. And one of the exercises is write your life story because you start to remember back. What was it that you loved doing as a kid?
What was it like you loved when you were young?
Yeah.
You go back to that with sports, whatever it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's our takeaway from today. So that's great, Hans. Thank you. Let me again share your website. So it's Hans Peterson, Petersen, hanspetersonart.com. And if you want to email directly, it's info@hanspetersonart.com. And you can ask questions. You can find out more about where Hans might be exhibiting. So if you wanted to go drop in and see some of the shows. So thanks. This has been amazing. Thank you for the story. And I wish you lots and lots of continued success.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
I didn't answer the question when I'm going to stop painting.
I know. Maybe never, huh?
Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? I know. You got to keep going.
I'll go on. I still love it. And
it gives you joy.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for putting me on the show. It created a serious amount of anxiety in my system. Of course, I like to paint, but I was writing for days the answers, and now I didn't even look at what I wrote down.
Because it.
So comfortable talking to you that I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And you know your story, Hans. We were very honored to have you. So thank you for doing this. I know it wasn't your first choice. You'd rather be painting. But let me tell you who's coming next week. And this woman does like to talk and expand on ideas. Her name is Deb Grove. And she describes herself as a Renaissance woman. Deb combines the knowledge she has gained from travel, her experience as an entrepreneur, her work with the IT industry in Asia and Silicon Valley, and her work as an artist to create her visions for the next chapter in her life. Deb is thinking about her legacy as an artist. She is thinking about multi-generational housing. She is finding her way in a new community. Deb is a dynamic woman who will bring a lot of energy to our conversation, and I look forward to talking to her next week. So that will be an all over the place conversation because she has a lot of things going on. If you like what we're doing, I would love it if you could support some of this work through buymeacoffee.com/heyboomer0413. If you go to that site, you can, for $5, you can buy me a coffee, not really a coffee, but, contribute. You can be a member for $75 for the year. So appreciate any support there. And join our Facebook group. We have a private group for those of us who are in this next stage of what's next. And it's where we can share our thoughts and fears and ask questions and be inspired by other people. So if you'd like to join that, send me an email at wendy@heyboomer.biz. In fact, send me an email at wendy@heyboomer.biz and let me know that you like the show. It's always good to hear from you. So thank you all for tuning in today. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate that you joined us, and I appreciate that you got to know a little bit about Hans. And remember to live with passion, live with relevance, live with courage, and you are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. My name is Wendy Green, and this has been Hey Boomer.